Welcome back to Books with AR. Chapter 64, Sect Scatters. The dragon roared at Pu Nanzi and attacked him. Pu Nanzi sneered. He flicked the sword and said, "Animal, restrain yourself." The dragon's body shook and immediately lost its will. It reluctantly returned back into the sword. The sword stopped glowing. Li Wenju and the old woman looked at each other and let out a sigh. She said, "Fine. All Heng Yue Sect disciples, listen to my order. Follow me off the mountain." With that, she took a look around and let out another sigh before floating up into the air. Pu Nanzi narrowed his eyes and said, "My Xuan Dao Sect is going to recruit more disciples. If anyone wishes to join them, they can stay here." The 10 foundation building elders' faces all turned strange. Besides the 2 who were next to the old woman, the other 8 didn't follow her. Lu Wenju's expression changed. He wanted to say something, but ended up staying silent. He let out another sigh, then shook his head and stood next to the old woman. The old woman suppressed her anger in her heart and shouted, "Everyone has their own path. If anyone doesn't want to follow us, I won't force you." Among the Honglong generation, all of the elders hesitated, and in the end, besides Honglong, Dao Shu, and the red-faced elder, none of the other elders moved. Only those 3 moved and stood next to the 2 core formation elders. Among the dozens of inner disciples, only about 10 or so flew next to the core formation elders. Wang Zhu hesitated for a long time. He didn't dare to look at Dao Shu as he raised his foot and put it down. Ultimately, he didn't follow. The female named Zhou hesitated for a while, but didn't follow. As for the female named Hu, she saw that Wang Zhou didn't move, so she pulled back the steps she took forward. Wang Hao could already walk. He wryly smiled and said to Wang Lin, "Brother Tiezhu, I'm not going to go anywhere. I plan on heading home and helping my dad. Don't worry, Brother Tiezhu, I'll take care of your family." Wang Lin hesitated. He had too many secrets, and if he joined the Xuan Dao Sect, there would be too many uncertain dangers. So, after pondering for a while, he started to move. At that moment, Pu Nanzi's eyes lit up as he stared at Wang Lin. He suddenly said, "Wang Lin, you stay." Wang Lin was stunned and respectfully said, "Senior Pu Nanzi, why do you want Junior to stay?" Pu Nanzi raised his head and said, "If I tell you to stay, you stay. What's all that question?" Lu Wenju hesitated for a while and suddenly said, "Senior Pu Nanzi, this Wang Lin is our Heng Yue Sect head disciple, so I would like to request Senior not to make it hard on him and let him leave with us." He had heard a few things about Wang Lin and had observed him a bit, and he was really unwilling to give up this future foundation-building disciple. Pu Nanzi grunted and said to Wang Lin, "The Heng Yue Sect only exist in name. Are you going to follow them as they drift around the world? If you join my Xuan Dao Sect, your future will be much brighter. You decide for yourself what you want. You wouldn't want rumors to spread, would you? Rumors saying that my Xuan Dao Sect not only stole the mountain, but the disciples as well." Pu Nanzi was confident that unless this Wang Lin was retarded, he wouldn't follow the Heng Yue Sect. Wang Lin pondered a little. Without a word, he clasped his hands and rose into the air and stood next to Honglong. Pu Nanzi's eyes lit up. "Ungrateful brat," he said. Lu Wenju and the old woman gave Wang Lin thoughtful looks. They waited for a while longer, but after seeing all the disciples of the Heng Yue Sect with their heads down, the old woman let out a sigh and said, "Fine, let's go." With that, she flew off into the distance. The other 10 or so people followed her with bitter expressions. The people of the Heng Yue Sect followed the 2 core formation elders and flew away from the Heng Yue Sect like homeless dogs. Along the way, no one said a word. Besides anger, they were filled with a sense of loss. After flying for a long time, until the sky darkened, Lu Wenju and the old woman debated for a while, then landed on the side of a mountain. The old woman let out a sigh. She looked at the people around her. Besides the 2 foundation building elders, everyone else was at the Qi Condensation stage. There were only 4 people from Heng Long's generation and 12 people from Wang Lin's generation. She bitterly smiled and forced herself to calm down and said, "You shouldn't lose heart just because the Heng Wang sect has met this disaster. Things always change in the cultivation world. Today, he stole the Heng Wang mountain from us, but once I and Ancestor Lu reach Nascent Soul, we will be able to take it back." Among the 2 foundation building elders was Elder Shangguan, who observed Wang Lin in the main hall a few days ago. He let out a dry cough and said, "Ancestor Wang is correct. The more miserable we feel now, the higher our fighting spirit will be. We must carve this humiliation into our hearts. If we are successful in the future, we must take back the mountain." The other foundation building elder had a wide face and body. His face was filled with worry as he looked at the remaining disciples and said, "When disaster came, everyone flew in different directions. In the end, only you guys were willing to follow us from Heng Wang's sect." He sighed. Among the inner disciples that followed, aside from Brother Zhang and Lu Sung, Wang Lin didn't know the names of any of them, but they looked familiar. There was also a little fatty, which was the person he met outside the word pavilion. Lu Wenju took a deep breath and said, with a serious expression, "There is no point in dwelling on the past. The most important thing right now is to find a place to house our sect. Many years ago, I built a house at a snake-like mountain thousands of miles away from here. For now, let's go live there." The old woman pondered for a while. She nodded her head and said, "That is good. Once we reach it, we must go into closed-door training and reach Nascent Soul within 100 years. Lu Wenju's guise shifted. He said to the 2 foundation building elders, "Shangguan and Song Yu, you 2 stand guard while I and Ancestor Lu recover the spiritual energy used on maintaining the formation. Then we can carry all of you to move faster." Shangguan and Song Yu quickly did as they were told. Lu Wenju took out a few pieces of green jade and tossed them into the air, and they began emitting a green light. His hand formed a few seals, and the green jade suddenly shook and created a dome of green light that covered everything within a 20-meter radius. After that, he sat down cross-legged and held a spirit stone in his hand and began to cultivate. The old woman did the same and began to cultivate to recover her spiritual energy. Welcome back to Books with AR. Chapter 65, Sect Mourning. Huang Long touched his bag of holding and looked toward the Heng Yue Sect with a complex expression. Dao Su stood at his side and said, "Sect head, there will be a time when we will take back the Heng Yue mountain." Huang Long bitterly smiled and said, "The purple moon sword was given to me by Ancestor Luo when I became the sect head. I told him that as long as the sword is there, I'll be there. But now, alas." The red-faced elder named Ma darkly said, "Sect head, the Xuan Dao Sect had a Nascent Soul cultivator. Not fighting him was the logical thing to do. There is no need to feel remorse about things like this. The cultivation world has always been like this. Back when the Heng Yue Sect was powerful, we did the same thing." Huang Long secretly sighed and didn't say a word. Wang Lin sat down cross-legged in the corner, looking at the Heng Yue mountain. All of this happened too quickly, and he was still in a state of shock, but he was mostly worried about his parents. After pondering for a while, he still couldn't set aside his worries. He was afraid that the Xuan Dao disciples would go find his parents for revenge. Thinking about this, a cold light appeared in Wang Lin's eyes. Although he didn't want to kill people, if they wanted to hurt his parents, he wouldn't mind killing them. Situnan proudly boasted, "This is the right way, Wang Lin. Hee. You should have been like this a long time ago. It's only killing people. What's the big deal? I have 10,000 ways for people to wish they were dead." Wang Lin frowned and said to Situnan, "Killing people is not the solution to this problem. If I kill one, there will be another, unless I kill all of the disciples of the Xuan Dao sect." Situnan kept pushing him. "What's so difficult about that? I'll teach you a technique, the puppet technique. Then you can capture someone and reform them into a loyal puppet. How's that? With this, you will be able to live worry-free." Just as Si Tunan finished speaking, the fat youth from the sword pavilion came up to Wang Lin and sat down next to him. He wryly smiled and said, "Head senior brother, my name is Huang Dashan. In the future, please take care of Junior here." Wang Lin glanced at the other, but before he could respond, the black-clothed disciple named Zhang came and said, "Huang Dashan, if you have time, you should cultivate more instead of asking someone to take care of you." Huang Dashan wryly smiled and said, "The sect is gone. Among the inner disciples left, senior brother Wang Lin is the strongest. No matter how much I cultivate, I won't be able to beat him, so I might as well be his underling." Brother Zhang turned and looked at Wang Lin, and he remembered when he brought the 3 disciples up to the mountain to be tested to join the sect. He secretly sighed and said, "Wang Lin, your progress has really been unexpected. I truly admire you." Wang Lin let out a wry smile, but was unable to say anything. He always had a lot of respect for Brother Zhang. Brother Zhang was one of the few inner disciples in the sect that not only never mocked him, but even encouraged him. At this point, Lu Song walked toward the 3, frowning, and said, "Xuan Dao, we haven't seen each other for several years, and you have finally reached the 6th layer. Do you still remember the promise from 10 years ago?" Brother Zhang's eyes lit up. He stared at Lu Song and said, "Of course I remember." Lu Song let out a sigh. He sat down next to Wang Lin, then patted Wang Lin's shoulder and said, "Wang Lin, the Heng Yue Sect exists only in name. I'll say something ugly. If you had stayed at the Xuan Dao Sect, you would have a much better future than coming here with us." With that, he bitterly smiled at Brother Zhang and said, "Brother Zhang, your stubborn temper is still the same as ever. What's the point of that 10-year promise when the sect doesn't even exist anymore?" Wang Lin looked at Lu Song. He moved his shoulder to get away from Lu Song and said, "Didn't elder brother Lu Song also not stay at the Xuan Dao Sect?" Lu Song shook his head and said, "Don't call me elder brother. According to the rules, I should be calling you elder. He. If I were to stay there, I would have no future because I have offended too many people in the Xuan Dao Sect." Xuan Dao coldly said, "Not only have you offended people from the Xuan Dao Sect, you have offended a lot of people in the Heng Yue Sect as well." Lu Song raised his head. He looked at Xuan Dao and sighed. "Xuan Dao, before I became a core disciple, I was a very hated person. But that was the past. What use is there in talking about it now? Back then, there was only 1 slot for a core disciple that year, and I had to help. I offer my apologies to you, Junior Brother Zhang." Xuan Dao's face remained cold, and he didn't say a word. During the competition for the core disciple slot that year, he was up against one of Lu Song's relatives. Before the fight, Lu Song appeared and injured him, causing him to lose the fight. Lu Song told him that he was not convinced then he could find Lu Song in 10 years to fight again. Lu Song honestly said, "Brother Zhang, I'll do my best to make up for what happened 10 years ago. But currently, the sect is in hardship, so us inner disciples should band together. Forget the disciples under 5th layer. Between us 4, Huang Dashan is at the 5th layer, Xuan Dao is at the 6th layer, and I'm at the 8th layer. So, what layer are you, Wang Lin?" Wang Lin saw that everyone was looking at him. He pondered for a little, then honestly answered, 14th layer of Qi Concentration. The moment the words were said, the 3 people next to him all sucked in breaths of cold air. They all knew Wang Lin was strong, but they didn't expect him to be this strong. Wang Lin's mouth dried up. He wryly smiled and said, "Congratulations, elder brother. You will soon reach the foundation building stage. When that happens, I'll have to call you elder." Xuan Dao gave Wang Lin a deep and thoughtful look before letting out a sigh, while Huang Dashan's eyes lit up. The other surrounding inner disciples carefully observed the 4. The few with sharper ears heard what Wang Lin said. Their eyes were filled with even more respect towards him. Lu Song took a deep breath and said, "Senior brother Wang Lin, from now on, we are the top disciples in the Heng Yue Sect. You will be the elder senior disciple, I will be the 2nd disciple, Xuan Dao will be the 3rd, and Huang Dashan will be the 4th. We should now form a group. What do you think?" Wang Lin pondered for a little before he could say anything. Huang Dashan quickly said, "What 2nd senior brother said is correct. That is how it should be. Jean de Cun hesitated for a while. He nodded and said, "There should be leaders among the inner disciples. This will help the elders and make it so that they have less things to worry about." When Wang Lin saw that the other two had already agreed, he nodded in agreement. He didn't really care about this matter, as he had other plans. Just at that moment, Lu Veju and the old woman opened their eyes.